Joshua Tree National Park was the first of 9 California parks we're going to hit, and the first thing we did was fill our schedule up with ranger programs. We explored a historic mine and then took a tour of famous Keys Ranch. This guy set up shop in the middle of the desert and survived for decades. Nobody really around. He built all his stuff from salvaged wood and parts left behind by other settlers, and really thrived. He had his own orchard and accumulated enough parts to start an auto body shop. It was really amazing. We also did a tree walk and learned all about the famous Joshua tree. They're really incredible. Each time they blossom, they form a new branch and end up with these Dr. Seuss-like shapes. And they're all over in the northern part of the park. Here you can see the tallest one called Barber Pole, 43 feet. But that's not the only plants in the park. There were these choyas. There were even oases where you would find these huge California fan palms out of nowhere. And it's really cool how the dead palms would form like a petticoat to protect it from the sun. And then out of nowhere we saw this live oak. But one of my favorite parts was just jumping around on these incredible boulders that were all around the park, like a big giant just dumped them, and it was stacking them in big piles. Here's Indian Cove. If we ever go back, I want to camp here because there was so much good scrambling and climbing up the rocks that you could do. I climbed up this one in about 10 minutes and got a good look around. Then there were these hidden parts like the Chasm of Doom. You could walk through this chasm that was on one side of this huge pile of rocks, and then in about a quarter mile you would come out on the other side. Here is where I got on the top and got a great view of a place called Hidden Valley that formed a natural corral where people kept their cattle. And this is that other side of Chasm of Doom after I finally made it out of the middle of these rocks. It was pretty crazy. Finally got out to see the light. And then we just did some good old mountain climbing. Up at Ryan Mountain, we got gorgeous views of the desert all around. You can see down below just the paths that the water carve and the big piles of boulders in the distance. But one of our favorite hikes was called Panorama Loop, and it was on one of the corners of the park that isn't very much accessed, but it's a lot of people's favorite hike, and you can probably tell why by some of these views up at the top. You can see an 11,000 mountain peak in the background. There's horses coming up the trail. We were hiking. There's this mountain biker. It was just a good old recreation hangout. And then at the end of the day, we caught a gorgeous sunset up at Keys View. And our time at Joshua Tree was just as beautiful.